say whether we are ready for anybody. I think we are more than ready for anybody. You remember a movie called Gunjan Saxena?
Yes, absolutely, sir.
It actually depicted, and I remember I was there and I had not cleared that movie initially.
Yeah. So shall we start, sir?
Yeah, we are good to start.
Yeah. So firstly, this is a very special day for me. Like, this is more of a passion project for me rather than, I'm not into like monetizing this because I'm shooting it as a podcast. But this is more of a passion thing for me because I'm in love with aviation. I'm in love with the story of the forces and our history. So, and getting you on board and your presence is the best birthday gift I have got today. So thank you so
Oh,
much
my
for that.
pleasure.
Thank you so much for that. So, sir, to start with, as I had mentioned to you earlier, so I've named this podcast "Runway to Reality," where the curiosity takes flight. So this is because it is more of a passion project from inside my curiosity. I am out there asking, reaching out to people like you to get insights, get more knowledge, and through me as a medium, if I can become for people, the youth or the ones who are interested in aviation industry and the forces and what goes around. So for them, I want to reach out to them and show what really goes on behind the scenes. So yeah, so to start with, I had planned many questions of regarding the Indian Air Force and geopolitics. But to start with, I want to start with your journey from where did it all began, because I'm aware that you don't come from a military or forces background.
Yeah, so it was very interesting. I did attempt NDA once and I could not get through.
Okay.
And so thereafter I started with my college. I finished my BSc in physics and I was parallelly in Air Wing NCC.
Okay.
Where I started flying. So I did a fair amount of flying. I flew on gliders and then I flew the Pushpak
Okay.
trainer aircraft. And as I started flying, my passion for flying got strengthened and even more strong. And thereafter, when I finished my college, I was doing MSc in physics. That is when I decided that I think this is a great career to choose, primarily for passion of flying and also for the kind of disciplined life which I had witnessed during my NCC days. And so I joined, and it is very interesting that when I was joining, I was selected for both Air Force as well as Naval Aviation.
Oh wow.
And it was a choice I had to make whether I go. And very interestingly, I had to join Air Force on 19 January 1985 and Naval Academy on 20th or 21st January. And so probably the dates gave me a clue to decide rather than weighing pros and cons, because as you said, I do not come from a military background.
Right.
Nobody was there in our family who could tell me pros and cons or whatever it is. And so it was a decision I took at that time just to say that, okay, this is the first one, let's go there. And I am really proud and very happy that I made that decision 40 years back.
Absolutely, sir. You are proud of yourself. The whole nation is proud of you because what you've done for us, for India, for its defense, it's like unbelievable for us. So, also because we've reached there with your journey, it is really fascinating. So, coming down to sir, firstly, as because you're a fighter pilot, which fascinates me the most, because we've seen movies since childhood. I've been seeing movies and Top Gun and seeing Tom Cruise on board. So what is there, is it real that there are call signs for the fighter pilots?
See, every nation has a different way of doing things.
Right.
and so is India. So in kind of US and all, there is a call sign which sticks to you throughout. Whereas we have a different way of doing that. Every squadron has a list of call signs, and they keep changing as you move across. And so when you move from one unit to another, your call sign changes. And so between whatever are the available call signs, you choose what fits your personality the most, and then go ahead with it. Plus, call signs are normally given after you become a leader kind of a sort, and that is when you can lead another person in air on another aircraft in kind of a formation of 2 aircraft, 4 aircraft or more, and so you get to choose a call sign then. And so I've had many call signs, from something like blue, red, orange to javelin or phoenix or rapier or pursuit or something. I mean, different call signs have been there. Whether it is on animals or on birds or things like that. So we keep changing, or weapons, in fact.
Okay, so basically those call signs resemble your character and personality, or your role in the team.
That is what you can choose from, if that be so. But otherwise, it is just that whatever is available, you get that.
Right. So then, coming to the return of our wing commander Abhinandan, you've played a very pivotal role in his rescue from Pakistan. And what I'm aware of, there was a 60-hour Geneva Convention pressure that was put on to get him back safely to India. So if you could walk us through, like, what behind the negotiations with Pakistan and how difficult was it?
So first of all, Balakot is still not declassified.
Right.
And so I can't go into the classified domain. But what will be interesting for you and the viewers would be that, operations or taking part in actual something really, which is kinetic, happens once in a lifetime. It is one has to be lucky to be in a particular place and at that time to get involved in it. And operations like these are very closely monitored, and they are very highly classified. So very few people would ever come to know how is it being planned, how is it being executed, what is being done, because it is very natural that it's a major task that is being undertaken.
Right.
But the fact is that after Abhinandan was captured, it was very clear that the pressure was squarely on Pakistan. And we were very clear that he has to come back home. So the pressure in terms of diplomatic pressure and military pressure, both were there. And you would have read in a lot of papers or in media that they thought that we might attack them.
Right.
But be that as may be, but the fact is that Geneva Conventions are very clear, and it was not a war. It was a counter-terrorism operation which India undertook. And so, for whatever reason Abhinandan ejected, it was incumbent upon Pakistani government to release him. And so, it was very clear to us that he had to be released in the shortest possible time without any harm being done to him.
Right. Great, sir. So, because I remember watching you on TV when you had addressed that we have got him back, and now I'm sitting here, so this is absolutely unreal for me. So, again, I would like to thank you for your presence again.
What is very important, Aryan, is that such interactions with media and other things. Once again, it was a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Right.
The last time anybody from Air Force was interacting with media was during Kargil operations.
Right.
That is in 1999, and exactly 20 years later, here I was interacting with the media. So it was a great opportunity, I think. I can't thank Air Force enough for putting me and having the faith to go in front of the media and take on their questions. It was not only a media briefing; it
Right.
was interacting with the media, taking on their questions and things like that. So it was a great experience. I think it is once in a lifetime opportunity,
Absolutely.
and nobody is ever prepared for such things.
Absolutely, sir. So talking about such opportunities, we are very proud, and I'm sure even you and your family is very proud that you've been awarded by the President of India. So, sir, how does it impact officers or a person who is working for the forces, who is serving to the forces and the nation? How does it boost their morale, or what impact does it have, such appreciations and honors given to our officers?
See, appreciation, recognition are two main factors of keeping people motivated and spurring them to achieve more.
Right.
Basically, it is motivation to go beyond the normal and do something in the organizations, in corporate world. There are bonuses, there are ESOPs, there are various other things, primarily promotions and financial or economic incentives.
Right.
In military, um everybody is doing it for the nation. It is a very sacred task that everybody is performing. While performing those tasks, some people go beyond their normal, demands of duty or profession or job.
Absolutely.
And how does one recognize these things? These are through letters of appreciation, commendations, awards, citations, and a medal. Primarily, military is nothing but recognition of your contribution to operations and tasks in pursuance of the goal of this nation. And so, all these, first thing that they do is they motivate you to do a little more. It is a recognition that what you are doing is in consonance with the organizational goals. It gives you kind of a standing. It gives you. It also motivates your subordinates to follow you, follow your footsteps. Try and imbibe those kind of qualities that have been recognized. So there are both. One is what you do for the service, which is what we called devotion to duty, or and second is gallantry. Gallantry is actions by an individual in face of the enemy or a situation which requires exceptional courage and actions. And so it is a way of motivating people, making them feel proud, their families also, because one must remember that unlike corporate or a civil job, military is not a corporate or civil job. It is involvement of the entire family.
Right.
Everybody gets involved. The wife gets involved, the children get involved, and so the spouse plays a very, very important role. And because we are community, we are not individuals.
Right.
We have a support mechanism which nobody has. In a corporate or a civil world, will anybody go to border or to fight a war leaving their family behind? And so that is the difference between the military and civil, which we continuously tell our people, train them, guide them, mentor them, so that they understand this difference and they are able to achieve a little more. And so that's why we say that the wind beneath our wings are our spouses.
Wow. Such a nice quote, sir, to be known. Also, sir, like you mentioned about the corporates, it is very different. So I also wanted to know whether there is hire and fire policy which we are aware of in the corporate. So because it is privatized. So in military, I'm sure for a leader, there can be chances, or there can be situations where performance, for because of the performance or whatever reason, you would want not to go ahead with a particular officer, or save him from some other situation or some other operations. So if we can't do hire and fire in the military, how difficult does it get for a leader to manage his team?
See, I'll answer it in two different parts. One is hire and fire, and other is leading or motivating the team. The single most important part in motivating is that there is a single goal and objective. That is, it's a military objective and it has flown from the national objective. So you are contributing to a nation and not an individual. And so you fight for the flag. Right. You do not fight for the name. And you do not fight for a person, you fight for the nation. And that is the difference between the corporate and otherwise. The other thing is hire and fire. There is nothing called hire and fire, but it is very, very clear that if a person does not perform to the level or the datum that has been very, very clearly demarcated and communicated and articulated in the system, then that person will have to sidestep. So we do not accept mediocre standards. And so you will find that during training, in the initial part of the training, there is fair amount of, people who go out, who do not meet the standards. And so there is what you call in other system wastages. We accept those wastages. Right. It could be 10%, it could be 20%. In a country like Israel, it is way more. It's about 30, 40, 50%. They don't accept it, and nobody accepts it. Even we don't accept it. Right from the day an individual joins the Air Force, it is made very clear that there are standards that have to be met. So if you do not meet standards, you will not be allowed to continue. So if there is a pilot, he does not meet standards, he is grounded. And there is no hesitation in doing it after giving that individual adequate chances as per the policy in vogue. And so the other part is, so we do not hire and fire. There is a system, but an individual, because we invest in so much of money, time, effort to train an individual, it is every job in our system requires certain characteristics, certain traits, certain capabilities. And so it is not that a person who may, there's an officer who may not be a very good pilot, but he could be a very good administrator, he could be a very good logistician, he could be a very good fighter controller, he could be a very good air traffic controller. In fact, if he cannot, cope up with the rigors of fighter flying, he could even be a very good helicopter or a transport pilot or a UAV pilot. And so we do not waste our resource. Right. We greatly respect our human resource because that is our strength. The military strength is human resource and technology. So we have to continuously train our human resource to adapt to the requirement of the service and the nation. And that is how we are different. Because we invest so much in training, we cannot just throw away a person having trained. Because to replace that individual, you'll have to train another individual for those many years. And the amount of money, the taxpayers' money that will go in training will be huge.
Absolutely.
And so that is the difference between corporate. Because you can hire outside. Outside you have very specific requirement. You are hiring for a particular role, and if you do not fit into a role, you can be fired. Right. You are not outside. It's all business. That means if you are not adding to the profitability of the company, you are fired. Right. Here we, as you grow in leadership, it's a different issue. But to do a particular task, it's a completely different issue. And the fact is, we train everybody to achieve a particular level of competence.
Right. Sir, talking about the trainings which go on in the Indian Air Force, I'm aware of the G-force a fighter pilot has to face. Like nowadays, the youth mostly would relate to the G-force which F1 drivers, Formula 1 drivers face on tracks because they are turning their cars on 200, 300 kilometers per hour. But on air, when you are airborne, I'm sure it is you need a very high level of physical strength and mental strength to go through that. So in the training, sir, how does Indian Air Force or how does that training, if you could walk us through, like what level of intensity, what is the one of the most thrilling experience of yours in your training or in a dogfight maybe in an operations regarding this of speed and G-force?
See, G-force is nothing but physics.
Right.
If you are trying to turn very tight at very high speeds, at certain speeds, and you can maintain those speeds, then you will find that the G is higher. But if your speed is low, you cannot turn at those rates, and so your G will be lower. Secondly, as the aircraft have evolved, the structures and the capabilities have enhanced over a period of many decades. So when we had the first generation jet aircraft or even the prop aircraft, they would go to say about 4, 5, maximum 6G. There are two aspects to a G. One is whether the aircraft structure can take it, and second is whether there is thrust in the aircraft to produce that kind of power.
Right.
And for the aircraft to reach those G limits. And so today, as the engines have got more powerful, the aircraft have structures have evolved. We find that just to give you an example, the Kaveri engine which has been developed in house produces a thrust of about 50 kilonewtons. And the G404 engine which is being fitted on LCA Mark 1A or Mark 1 produces 75 kilonewton thrust. So it's almost 1.5 times.
Right.
And so when the thrust is more, you can obviously turn the aircraft at much faster rate.
Right.
And so the G's have increased. So from about 4 to 5 G, which we would do earlier, today the aircraft are capable of about 9G.
Right.
And this is again, it is limiting, the G is limiting because of the human.
Right.
And it is not just the aircraft. So probably you could pull even more. But it is primarily the human body which is there. What happens is, just to put it in a very layman term, G is nothing but if you say 1 G is you are standing on the ground, on the surface of the earth, and what you feel, that is your body weight.
Right.
Now when you say 2G, it is kind of that twice your weight is acting on you. When you say 9G, 9 times, that means if I am pulling more and more G, what it will do is my heart is pumping blood into my brain, which is allowing me to see. The eyes are our visual sensory organs.
Right.
And so what we see is because of the blood flow which is going into our eyes. Now if that blood flow is reduced, our visual acuity would reduce. A time would come that I will not be able to see.
Right.
When the blood reduces. Similarly, when the blood reduces from the brain will start doing much lesser. That means my sensory system would suffer.
Right.
Right? So when you pull more and more G, what happens is at about 4 to 5 G is what you say, 4G or so, is a grey out. That means a pilot under 4G, if there is nothing, he's there doing nothing, there is no other assistance to the pilot. What will happen is everything will start looking grey. That means you will not be able to see the instruments, you will not be able to see outside. And as you keep pulling more, you will go into a blackout. That means everything will become black. Your vision from being here will tunnel and just close. And if you go higher, then what is called a G lock. that means your blood flow is so little that your brain stops functioning. That means you are not realizing anything until this G lock could spend, depending on rate at which you are pulling G and for how long you are doing that, G lock could extend for a little longer. And in that case, you just fall down, and thereafter you have no control over the aircraft because you don't know what is happening. So to overcome that, what has happened is the first thing was a G suit, anti-G suit. So what we do is every fighter pilot and everybody who is to do high G maneuvers will wear a G suit. What happens is G suit is the air from the engine is tapped into a tube, and that tube connects to the inlet of a G suit, and there are these bags which are there in the G suit, both around your calf muscles, on your thigh and on your abdomen. And so the rate at which the G is increasing and the amount of G which is increasing, the air is pumped into these bladders, and they expand and they tighten your calf muscles and your thighs and your abdomen. So by virtue of that, what happens is the blood flow when you're under high G conditions, which is going from your brain to your feet, will reduce.
Right.
And so you will have blood in your brain, and your heart will be able to pump a little more towards your brain, and so you will be able to continue seeing and be visually active at about 5 to 6 G. So it gives you an addition about 2.5 G or so. As there are improvements in these G suits, we are going up to almost 3 G or so. Then we come to, so if you are pulling 4 G, you are reaching about 7 G. So if you are without a G suit, you went grey out at 4.5 G. Now you will go grey out at about 6.5 G without anything else. Then what we do is we train all our pilots from that very beginning into what we call as high G training.
Okay.
So we have a centrifuge in Institute of Aviation Medicine at Bangalore.
Okay.
Which is the mecca for all aviation medicine studies and all the work. Our aviation medicine specialist doctors are there. They were involved even in Gaganyaan project. So the Air Force has the experts to deal with aviation medicine issues, and this is an aviation medicine issue.
Right.
And so what we do is now we train people to do anti-G maneuvers. That means anti-G breathing, making a little bit of noise, tightening your stomach. So a pilot will know that now I am coming into a higher G, and as he is going into a higher G, he or she, they are preparing themselves for that condition. And while doing that, one is the anti-G suit is helping them, and thereafter their additional about 2 to 3 G they can go by doing these physical maneuvers or actions, which are very, very deliberate actions. And by doing that, you can go and sustain up to 9 G without, graying out or blacking.
Right. I'm sure, sir, it is very intense knowing these things, because what we see in the movies. So, sir, I can frame it into a question to you. Like, we've seen Bollywood coming up with a lot of Indian Air Force history and stories depicting them on the screen, like Sky Force and Fighter. So, for a person like you who has really been in that seat, how realistic is it to you, or are you annoyed with, no, it is not really something that goes around?
So sometimes you are annoyed. I will not mince my words. I don't think just depicting our real life or real way of life on screen will get people business. A producer sinks in a lot of money to make a movie, and so it has to be a happy compromise between creativity of a director, kind of little romance, action, and things like that that a producer and a director would like to put into it, to just get the kind of the acting skills of people. But at the same time, it must not affect the image of a service.
Right.
It must not give a wrong indication. People should not, I mean, earlier, all our earlier long time back movies would indicate that if you go into military, you're going to die for the nation. If you go into become a fighter pilot, you will have a crash. But that does not happen. You can have a crash on the road.
True.
And so there are more people dying on the road in India than they are dying in air or on the border.
True, sir.
And so it is very, very important that the creativity does not take away the factual or the correctness of a service. Similarly, how do we show their uniforms? How do we show an environment? You remember a movie called Gunjan Saxena? Or
yes, absolutely, sir.
It actually depicted, and I remember I was there and I had not cleared that movie initially in Air Headquarters. And so the procedure is a clear laid down procedure that anybody who wants to come, who would be doing, we do not encourage, if there is a couple in Air Force, you can't be direct or explicit, in work atmosphere is different and home atmosphere is different, and so those parameters are very, very strictly adhered to in service, which in a movie they take for granted.
Right.
You understand the difference?
Yeah.
And so I think now as we have evolved, there is a fair amount of learning even our film industry is doing from Hollywood, and they are more in connect with us than they used to be earlier.
Right.
Similarly, the visual effects and the the IT today, the gaming and other industry, the way it has gone up, hugely more realistic things can be projected and be simulated without going into trying to do it with the Air Force equipment.
Right.
And so there is, and this is where we need a good balance between how you would look at creativity to the facts of a service. And so the ethos, the values, the traditions, the discipline, the uniforms, the working culture and the environment should not be shown in wrong light, is my point of view. And I think slowly we are reaching there.
Yeah, I'm sure. And we hope we do not annoy any more officers by the movies that have been portrayed and are on air. So, sir, also moving on to the Balakot strike. So, we are aware that it was a very big moment for our army, for our forces. So, after that incident and after that situation occurred on us, how did we prepare? How did India prepare for further any anticipated such situations?
See, whenever we plan any operations, we cater for all kind of contingencies, and so everything would have been catered for when such a operation was planned. That what would be the response, what is likely to happen, if this happens then what should we do, if that happens then what will we do. So all the contingencies would have been by the people who are involved in the planning process would have certainly given due importance to, and one has to understand that these things are at the national level, and so everybody is on board on such issues. But the fact of the matter is that after Kargil, This was the biggest. Even in Kargil, we did not cross the line of control.
Right.
We never went into the Pakistani airspace. But in Balakot, we did go, and we not only went into Pakistan occupied Kashmir, we went into Pakistan. And so that is the most important part, that air power just is so responsive. It can create effects which nobody else can.
Right.
And so I think it is what is more important for everybody to know is that whatever task was given by this nation and the leadership to Air Force, it was done with perfection, and the objectives were achieved.
Absolutely. We are very thankful for that as well. Also, sir, talking about our forces and our capabilities and skills, the tactics, strategies, I'm sure everybody wants to know, and I think everybody should be aware of how capable and how strategically strong or tactically strong our Indian force, especially Air Force, is. Because we do know there are very big competitors like US and Russia and China. Compared to them, how equipped are we, and what potential do we have?
See, once again, there are two aspects to it. One is what is the equipment and what is the training. So it is not only the machine, it is the man behind the machine who is as important, or perhaps a little more important. If you know this case of Squadron Devaya of 1965, the story on which Sky Force is based on, it demonstrates what a pilot can achieve out of his machine. And so there are two basic factors we call knowledge and skills. And third is ability to absorb, understand technology and how to use it effectively against your adversary. So the fourth dimension of it is how well do you know your adversary. And so these are the factors that are important when we say whether we are ready for anybody. I think we are more than ready for anybody. And why I say this is that as far as our equipment is concerned, while there is lot of talk on reducing number of squadrons of the Air Force, we are down to 31 squadron. But at the same time, the fact is that Air Force is doing its best to upgrade whatever equipment we have to make it as relevant as possible to the present technologies. And we are working very closely with everybody to ensure that future technologies are achieved in a lesser time frame, and we remain relevant in the technological change which is going on. The second and the more important aspect is of training, or our pilot capability, maintainer capability, controllers capability. Today, Indian Air Force is a truly net-centric Air Force. That means we are completely networked. And we train with every country in the world, minus China and Pakistan, of course.
Yes.
What is important is that more and more countries want to exercise with Indian Air Force today, and including US Air Force or Russian Air Force or Royal Air Force or French Air Force. And in every exercise that we have gone, we have proved our mettle. That means we have shown to the world that we are second to none. And in fact, in a lot of them, they have learned something from us. Exercises are primarily more of an exchange, and so by these exercises, our air warriors of Indian Air Force are exposed to what is going around in the world. What is the level of training of pilots, maintainers in the world? What kind of technologies they may have to face in case of any operations. And when we do that, the kind of simulations and the kind of exercises we do in our country today simulate the extreme kind of situations that our air warriors would have to face ever in case of a future. And so our own realistic exercises plus the kind of exposure that our air warriors get abroad and what the other air forces get when they come here and they get when they fly with us is something that gives us so much of confidence that the Indian Air Force, the man behind the machine, is second to none and is way heads and shoulders above most of the countries in the world. And that is something that I think we are extremely proud of.
Right. So also talking about the aircrafts and our technically how ahead are we with the world. We recently got the news of that India is going to produce their own aircrafts and jet engines and fighter jets. So how does that impact and what benefits do you think we are going to have in our forces?
So it's very interesting to know that HAL, which is the singular aircraft producing company today, minus the Tatas, which have now started assembling C-295 transport aircraft, was a private company, and it built a trainer, a small trainer, way back in 1950s, HT2.
Wow.
Then it developed Marut, HF-24. It built Ajit, the follow-on of NAT. And then we are now looking at Tejas, the LCA.
Yeah.
Our biggest, it is not that we did not have a good scientific community. It is just that industrially we missed the industrial revolution. And it took us long time to leave. And so the world has, you cannot jump from one generation to another. You have to learn the ropes of each one. And so development is something which we lost sight of in between. And for which we have to pay a very, very big price.
Right.
This development, research and development or development of a fighter aircraft or even transport aircraft, we did not follow it through to the extent that we should have done. And that is why it took us a long time. The second aspect is we were reliant on developed nations of the world, especially on engines and technologies, which we did not have. And when we had Pokhran, many sanctions were applied against us. Right. And so the technology denial continued for 3 to 5 years. And because of which, sorry.
No problem.
Because of which we had to, we could not continue our projects. And secondly, I think it is all money also, financially, whether programs were supported or not, did not get full support and money. And so we've landed up today, I think, we with sustained hard work, we have achieved LCA Mark 1 and Mark 1A is almost on the verge of being delivered to the Air Force.
Right.
And thereafter we go to LCA Mark 2 and AMCA. But the fact is that we are still one generation behind the world in terms of aircraft manufacturing. As far as engines are concerned, we are way behind the world in terms of engine manufacturing. And so I think we have done the right thing of trying to identify some manufacturers who have achieved certain amount of maturity and technology evolution, who will help us bridge the gap that exists today. And once we bridge this gap, it will allow our developers and our scientists to go on to the next stage in a much shorter time frame that we have seen so far.
Right, sir. So also that you've been part and the representative of India for the UN peacekeeping mission, which was held in Congo. So, what do you think were the biggest challenges there? There are several nations involved. There are conflicts risen up. So, how do you tackle those?
See, United Nation missions are implementing the United Nation mandate. That means you are a peacekeeper. You are not a peace enforcer.
Right.
That is the basic difference. And so when you peacekeep, it is more of a kind of a complementary relationship with the local people and trying to create a positive situation through dialogue and through various activities in line with what the UN mandate is. Secondly, you are operating in a multicultural and multinational environment.
Right.
That means you are shoulder to shoulder. I remember that there was a Pakistani battalion next to our camp. And so there he is not our adversary or enemy. We have to work with them.
Right.
And so the relationship is completely different. And the last is how good your connect is with the local population. That will help you get a little better understanding of the threats and the conditions that exist. And lastly, Congo, where I was, we sometimes when I went there in 2006, I used to feel that poverty is a curse, but I realized what abject poverty there was. But at the same time, I also realized that how important culture is. They actually imbibed the culture which was left behind by the Belgians who had ruled them. So these are the few challenges that you have to work in a very, very restrictive mandate.
Right.
You cannot take your own actions. You have to go primarily by the UN Charter. You cannot interact on your own with very, very many people. And for us, we were with, we had next door, we had Bangladeshis, we had Ecuadorians, we had Bolivians, we had people even from very close by, there were people from China, and such like people, there were many people. And what we were given, our task was to manage an airport, because there was no rail, there was no road, there was no waterway. Though the river was right next to us, Congo River, but we could not use it. And so, if that airport had to run, it was by us, we had to run it. Because otherwise, something going from east to west Congo or north to south Congo, that was the center of Congo. And so that was kind of you are in complete isolation. Only your own contingent of whatever 100 plus people who are there, you are interacting day in and day out, and so they have to remain motivated in kind of a isolation, and how to keep them motivated, happy and fit.
Absolutely.
Those are the challenges. But working in a multinational, multicultural environment are big opportunities for our people to know that how good they are in their own sense, how well are they looked after as compared to many other countries, and so the respect that they must have for the service and the nation comes there in that environment.
Absolutely. So also talking about the space and cyber warfare, that is becoming really a critical aspect for the national security. How prepared do you think India is for those?
You are as prepared and ready as you think about your enemy. So there are a lot of things that are being done. There are a lot of actions that get taken in terms of procedures, processes. Like one of it is, we don't use social media as individuals. Because that is one route that is the easiest to take to get into somebody as cyber. Space is becoming a big enabler. Everything that we are doing in Ukraine, the day Starlink closed, their network collapsed.
Right.
So the commander could not talk to his subordinate. Similarly, your intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, everything is today based on space. Space is becoming congested. There are more than 2,583 satellites today which are orbiting over us. Not all of them are functional, but there are a lot of non-functional. There's a huge amount of debris. Right. More than 1 lakh pieces of debris or lakhs of pieces of debris are floating around. And so if space and cyber are going to enable us to fight a war, earlier we had 3 domains: land, air and maritime. Right. That is Navy, Army and Air Force. Right. Today 2 more domains have got added. That is cyber and space. Yes. So today we are not fighting in a single domain anymore. And the effect of cyber on land, air and sea, effect of space on land, air and sea is profound. And so I think India is, there are agencies, we have a defense space agency which looks after the space requirements of all 3 services, while the services look after their own space requirement. And there is a defense cyber agency which looks after the cyber requirements of all 3 services, while each service has their own part of cyber. And so they get integrated at the interagency level, at the national level. Right. So space and cyber are not only military use, but they are a whole of a nation use. Absolutely. And so I think military today is Air Force itself is fairly well integrated into the overall architecture, and we are continuously evolving to ensure that we are ready for taking on the space and cyber threats. We have resilience, we have networks, we have redundancy, we know we have procedures which tell you that in case of a particular contingency, what should you do. And so, it is said that, China identified that USA is highly reliant on space. Right. So they were trying to find out how to degrade the space. And so US said that, okay, can we fight without space? And so we do, everybody does that. You understand what is it that space is enabling you, and you also understand that in case these enablers are not available to you anymore, how would you continue to be relevant in a fight? Absolutely. Finally, you have to fight to win the fight. Absolutely, sir. So, okay, also, so suffice to say that there are enough number of people who are working on these, and they are technology savvy. They understand what is the future, and to ensure. And I think everybody knows. For people who don't know, India did its what we call Mission Shakti, that is anti-satellite test. Was done by DRDO to shoot down a satellite in space, which now the countries like US, Russia, China, India are capable of. Right. Sir, knowing that you have flown 5,000 hours, it is a very big number. So, sir, I'm sure you've flown in various aircraft, fighter aircrafts and trainer aircrafts. Which was the most thrilling experience for you? Like, which you can say, which one was your favorite aircraft to fly? See, my maximum flying has been on MiG-21. Okay. So I consider MiG-21 as my favorite aircraft. Understood. So I think MiG-21 is the aircraft which was flown by our wing commander Abhinandan also. Yeah. Right. So that was the Bison variant of MiG-21, okay. Upgraded MiG-21. And that aircraft was truly a a fighter pilot's delight, I would say. Why? Because it gave you maximum challenges, the fastest aircraft to land in the world. When you come over the threshold, your speed is 340 to 350 kilometers per hour, and your landing speed is close to 300 kilometers per hour. And so it gives you the maximum challenge. We never had things like head-up display and things like that. So you were on those dials and instruments which are there in the aircraft. And so it was not carefree flying like today's aircraft which have fly-by-wire, which is a lot carefree, that the computers take care of the envelope of the aircraft. And so the aircraft would not depart and go into a completely dangerous flight regime. And so it was truly the man behind the machine, and it was the capability of the man and to use how much was the capability of the aircraft. And so that continues and remains the most dear aircraft. There are many instances that you have, whether you are flying, whether we flew over Siachen or we flew into the valleys in north towards Leh and Kargil, or whether we came close to some guys across, or we were trying to intercept a slow civil aircraft which had strayed into our airspace, or you are handling an emergency and things like that. There are many things that are there. But the most satisfying is that, at the end of it, having flown more than 2000 hours on MiG-21, one feels very satisfied that it was completely accident-free flying. Though so many emergencies took place and we recovered the aircraft safely. Flying modern aircraft is a different thing altogether, because modern aircraft are all handling systems, because today they are so capable that the amount of data that they are processing is thousands of times what we processed in a MiG-21. And so obviously the aircraft has to be very simple to fly, because the pilot should not waste or consume all his energy in flying the aircraft. The pilot must be able to process the information and take a split-second decision.
Absolutely.
And so that is the difference in today's aircraft.
So knowing these like split-second decision making under the cockpit in such high speed in airborne, which was the most memorable experience in the cockpit? It can be under operation, it could be under training, or a visual delight you had while flying. Which was your best experience? Like, which is the most thrilling experience in the cockpit?
See, in both air combat, that is the most satisfying is, when you do a dogfight.
Absolutely.
That means 1 versus 1. That means you are pitched against your own peer or subordinate,
right,
or a superior, and you start fighting in the air to see who wins, or does it end in a stalemate. And so the most satisfying was whether you could maneuver yourself into a position where you could say that yes, I could have shot you down. And the other part of fighter flying is delivering weapons. And so whether you could deliver weapon on target all the time, and how good were your weapon scores. So these are the two basic things. And I remember our flying both during training and otherwise in operational squadrons, where we would not leave a stone unturned to just get better of the other guy. And so these are there are many of them, mostly one versus one, where we were flying, and sometimes you were flying with a much superior aircraft like a MiG-29 or a Mirage at that point in time. I'm talking about 90s.
Right.
And then if you could somehow get behind them, that would have been the biggest achievement. It was like Abhinandan shooting down F-16.
Right. Absolutely. It sounds surreal, sir, the experience you have. For us, person like me who is an enthusiast who always dreams to sit in a cockpit at least for a few seconds to experience how it feels, it sounds surreal, absolutely. Sir, also knowing that AI has taken over the world, absolutely over the world. So the evolving jets we have, do you really think that human pilots, we do have our capabilities and limitations, but the AI, the software, the engine, it doesn't? So do you think it can be replaced, or how can it compete with, if an AI aircraft in future, if generated that way, produced that way, can win over a pilot who is under a cockpit?
So recently there were two instances. One was in China and one was in US, where AI-enabled aircraft in a simulation
Right.
defeated a pilot.
Okay.
So there is certainly, it is like Deep Blue defeating Gary Kasparov in chess.
Absolutely.
But the fact is that in military flying, in combat, every situation cannot be simulated, and there will always be new situations. That is why the first thing that we tell a pilot is that every day is a new day, every mission is a new mission. So whatever you have learned, that you will use that to for your present mission or your future mission. And similarly, AI is being used hugely.
Right.
If you see the amount of data that is being collected by an aircraft like a F-35, the 5th generation aircraft,
Yeah.
even a 4.5 generation aircraft like Rafale, the amount of data that it generates, it's a radar, it's a radar warning receiver, it's infrared seeker, it's EW suite, the data it is getting from the ground, the data it is getting from the AVACs. So all these sensors and everybody who's putting data has to be processed. This data cannot be processed by a human being.
Right.
And so AI is extremely important. It is in fact it is already there. And so the 4.5 and 5th generation aircraft are greatly using AI. The 5th generation is hugely reliant on AI. And so AI will continue to play a very, very important role as the aircraft become. Earlier what used to be there, the command post would be on ground or in air, in form of a command post on ground or a AVAX as a command post in air. Today 5th generation aircraft are themselves a command post. So if they themselves have to become command posts, they must be able to process that data which is coming from multiple sources.
Right.
Now 5th generation we are going into what is called the man-unmanned teaming or collaborative combat aircraft,
Yeah.
and things like that. Once we have that, can a pilot start controlling all these while controlling his own aeroplane also? So they will have to be AI enabled. But at the same time, I think we have not matured as of now in autonomy to the state where we can have completely autonomous system, primarily because of the legal issues associated, and if it goes rogue, if there is a software problem. Finally, autonomy is reliant on software.
Right.
And I've seen so many times that simple things like a video conference doesn't take place because of some technical glitch.
Right.
And these are a very advanced system, though the developers and the scientists take enough care to have redundancy. But yet, the biggest example that comes to my mind immediately is recently while flying over Ukraine border, a Su-57 had to shoot down S-70 Okhotnik, which was its loyal wingman.
Yeah.
Because it lost control over it. And so that is autonomous system. And so if that can happen, it can go rogue.
Absolutely.
It can be taken over by somebody else. And so if that can be done, so finally it is all a cat and mouse game. So you have a virus, you produce antivirus, and then another virus comes. And so this will continue to play till a certain amount of maturity is achieved.
Right.
So you remember, if you have read, Elon Musk said F-35 is useless. Who's the idiot who's made this, and who are the idiots who are flying it?
Yeah, I'm aware.
But today on last week only, he was standing in the same. He was there when President Trump said we are clearing 6th generation fighter.
Yeah.
It's a manned aircraft. So while people can keep talking, you cannot replace a pilot as of now. Probably 10, 15, 20 years from now. That is why the new generation aircraft which are going to come, they will have an optional unmanned system. The biggest advantage of unmanned system is you can pull any amount of G.
Right.
You are no more physical related. You do not have to cater for a pilot's oxygen, pilot's survival, pilot's other systems. You don't need anything other support systems within the cockpit. So your huge weight reduces. The engine which was now supporting the pilot is now only supporting the aircraft and its performance. And so the aircraft can become even more capable.
Absolutely.
But the fact is that to control autonomy, you need a human.
Right.
Till autonomy does not need a human, which is long way to go.
Absolutely. Sir, what areas do you think Indian, like you worked for 38 years, service for the forces. So I'm sure you've seen ups and downs in the management, in the ethics of the system. Which areas do you think currently needs the most attention, or there has to be some development done for more efficiency in the forces?
In the Indian Air Force?
Yes, sir.
See, every service is constantly evolving. We must be, what is very, very, very intriguing is the lesser developed country. They are doing some crazy innovations.
Right.
Okay. Houthi, who would have imagined Houthi drones attacking Aramco in Saudi Arabia? 800, 900 kilometers away. They gave an example to the world. They captured air-to-air missiles and converted them into surface-to-air missiles. The kind of drones they are making. Okay, while they get support from Iran or whatever it is, but the fact is that finally you will get something, but most important is how good you are in absorbing the technology and employing it to the effects that you desire.
True.
So, I think another thing is how society is changing, how the value system is changing, how transactional people are becoming, how much social media dependence is there.
Right.
What is the resilience of the generation in terms of attention span, commitment to a particular cause.
Right.
So basically what I say is the difference between the civilian and the corporate world to the Air Force is that Air Force or military is a profession, whereas outside it's a job.
Right.
A job is a particular task for which you get compensated, and we very loosely interchangeably use job and profession, whereas profession is lifetime of job with constant evolution, constant training and a career path. And so there is investment of your intellect, your commitment, your discipline, and sacrifices that you make from being a civilian to being in service. For information of you and all the viewers, every individual who's in uniform is not only subject to the Indian Penal Code, he is also subject to Air Force Act. That means you have to be much more conscious than an average human being.
Right.
So two laws apply to keep you on track. So the first thing is that our ability to, we must continue to improve our ability to evolve in consonance with how the world is evolving. We must today, while a lot of people say there is more nationalism, there is deglobalization, but I still believe that deglobalization, like an unmanned fighter, is far away, because today the global supply chains are so interlinked that you cannot survive without each other.
True.
So, to understand what is going around in the world and in the region around you, because the situations are so dynamic. Who had thought Russia-Ukraine war would take place? Who had thought Israel will go so hard on Hamas?
Yeah.
Who had thought that Israel will go and attack Iran? Who had thought, I mean, today US is repeatedly undertaking airstrikes against the Houthis in Yemen. And so the changing situation is something that I think the Air Force and the personnel need to understand very well. Understanding technology, its utilization, its absorption, how quickly you are innovating. Today's the world is, we thought that there will be no long wars, but these two wars have shown that there can be long wars. And so, how would you think and adapt to changing situations? And will that happen in our context or not happen in our context?
Right.
Drones are getting into us. Drones are ubiquitous now. And so if they are the future of warfare, then how are we going to leverage them? And what is it going to be counter-US?
Right.
Cyber, space, they are understanding. How each and every individual understands these two things and how do they affect and impact on our operations.
Absolutely.
And finally, leadership is the most important thing. Military is nothing but leadership for officers and junior commissioned officers. And that leadership under such trying, situations and dynamic situations is something that is very important.
Right.
And in a changing value system in the society.
Absolutely.
So we used to discuss often that the military trains you throughout your life, and so that is the biggest challenge to us, that should we let our air warriors be a reflection of society, or should we say that no, they cannot be a reflection of society? We train them so hard and so well that they imbibe qualities which are the traditions, the values, the ethos, the esprit de corps, discipline, and everything that we stand by. How well we train them, and we ensure that they are that our values can be percolated to the society rather than the things in society which are getting compromised to some extent.
Absolutely. So moving down to the final aspect of our podcast or this conversation, I have learned so much. Like, every question has given more than 5 things to think about and go and read about and get knowledge about. Absolutely amazing. I'm very blessed to have this conversation with you. So I would want to know that in this years of experience and your service to the forces, an accomplishment, an achievement, which do you think was the most defining moment for you in your service?
I can't remember a single defining moment, because I just stuck to the basics that were taught to me, and doors kept opening. So I won't say defining moment, but I would say that the spirit that you do your job well and you be on the right path. Do not compromise on your principles and values. Be transparent and let others make a decision about you or create a respect rather than you go looking for it. And most importantly, be a thorough professional.
Right.
Most important is being a thorough professional and being a good leader. These are two things that I realized in my service, that leadership and professionalism are the only two qualities that will help you navigate forward and that will help you connect with the people and understand, for the people to understand that you mean business and nothing else. And so and that is what allowed me to function in the manner that I could with the kind of freedom that I got from my seniors. Otherwise, a lot of people tend to close control their subordinates. That is another thing I learned, that that's the crux of Air Force, that is centralized control and decentralized execution. That means it is like a parent to a child, that you give your child freedom, but continuously supervise your child that whether that freedom is being used constructively or destructively.
Right.
And so that will help both you understand the child better and the Air Force to understand you better. And the best, obviously the best tenures are always where you command people or units. Right. So as a commanding officer of a fighter squadron, commanding officer of a UN mission in Congo, another I won't say professionally defining, but personally defining was the 3 years that I spent as a air and defense attaché in USA, where I could have a bigger worldview. Then as a commander of a fighter base, then as another air officer commanding in chief of a operational command. So all these were, I would say, I would not just put one point they were defining, right. But they were most satisfying, I would say.
Right. So did you have a role model from maybe the forces or someone who inspired you in general by the psyche or the mentality to go forward in your service or in life in general?
I have a different perspective on it. No, role models are there. I also had, I think I would say that too, but since this podcast is going to be viewed by a lot of people, I don't want my mentors to know who was there and who was not there, because there are a lot of people who, I would say, who made a positive and a negative impact on me.
Sure, sir.
And that is what I feel, and I teach. And I guide my subordinates, always guided, that you are always, if your eyes and ears are open, you are always observing. And as I grew up, I realized the difference, which I want this generation to understand, especially in our context, is do you understand the difference between seeing and observing? We keep seeing so many things, but we don't observe.
Right.
And hearing and listening. We constantly hear, but are we listening? That means there is a connect between eyes and the brain and ears and the brain. So the moment we connect them, you will get something out of it. You will be able to foresee a situation better if you have this capability. And so, like I always Like the seniors are constantly assessing the juniors. The juniors are always looking at the senior, and they may not be assessing, but they are always analyzing them.
Right.
And I think it is the most important facet of growing up. And each one of us has a different personality. And I think we must be proud of our personality and not try and copy anybody else's personality. And so role models, the moment you start making role models, you start copying them entirely. But when you are analyzing on a larger canvas, that means, let's say, I had 30 postings. That means in 30 postings, I had minimum of 30 seniors or my commanders.
Right.
So if I had at least 30 commanders, I had more than 60. So if I had so many people who are above me, I was constantly analyzing them to see whether their actions or their thought processes or their approach is, see, professionalism is black and white, but traits are not black and white.
Right.
Your approach is not black and white. And so this is when I observed. I said, no, this person is way too strict. This person is way too liberal. There is somewhere in between one has to be. In consonance with the principles that I have, or the values and ethos or the traditions that have been enunciated by the service. And so as I kept going up, I kept putting these into two boxes. I must have this and I will not have this.
Right.
So that box which I must not have, I just kept it shut and locked. And the other box which I must try and imbibe and develop, I kept it open and I kept it current. So similarly, my juniors would also look at me like that. That these are the things, these are the qualities I would like to imbibe. These are the qualities I would not like to imbibe. And I think that is a journey that is important in growing up. Rather than just have a role model 1, 2, 3. Because then you would try and clone them. The way our defense industry is cloning so much of foreign hardware. We are trying to clone, we are not trying to innovate and develop.
True.
That is where the difference should lie in future. That we should not be clone of any individual. Otherwise we are genetically the same. And genetically no two individuals can be same. And so to retain our individuality, I think it is extremely important that we must be different from everybody else and must allow our personality to speak rather than becoming somebody else's mouthpiece.
True. Sir, finally, a piece of advice you would give, because from your experience, to the aspiring cadets for the forces, for the Air Force, and also for advice for the youth in general these days. So what would be the one piece of advice you think that if they follow, they'll surely succeed or they will do good in life?
Firstly, I won't go into the standard that be truthful, be honest, be upright. These are the values that have to be there. I think it is a no-brainer at all. But I would believe to succeed, you should have inquisitiveness. To succeed, you should be disruptive. Think out of the box. To succeed, you should be able to take some risks. Be able to understand between mistakes that you can make and mistakes you cannot make. When I say this, in aviation, you can make two types of mistakes. A mistake which could lead to fatality.
Right.
A mistake which can be corrected and you can recover. So your ability to judge which mistake you can make or you cannot make, which is knowledge and skills. So you must be an expert. Become an expert in what you do rather than becoming jack of all trades and master of none.
Right.
Today's world is so focused and so technologically intensive that journalism has no value and no place. And so, the first thing is being inquisitive. Ask this question: why?
Why?
And lastly, I wish we can change our system in which we give more emphasis on education than on academics. Because we want educated citizens. We do not want just the academically brilliant people.
Yes, sir, I would really love if you could brief this down a bit more, because this is a very good point everyone should know.
What happens is our full focus is on academics. That you are BTech, you are MBBS, you are MBA, you are this, you are that. What is your CGPA? But whether you are a good citizen or not, whether you know basic etiquettes or not, whether you have civic sense or not, whether you recognize the presence of others or not, whether you know what is good or bad for the society, whether you have values, that is education. So in our kindergarten, when we start with, you know ABCD, you know table. What I saw in one of the countries I went is, they create a system in which the habits become a part of your personality, whereas we are trying to teach them or mug them by rote, and this is not going to help us, because mugging by rote you will forget after about the moment that it is withdrawn. And so it is very, very important that we look at education, where, like I was telling you, I saw very, very young kids. They were put in two rows, and the kids on the right row were holding a rope with their right hand. With the left hand, they were holding the right hand of the other kid, and the kid on the left was holding the rope with the left hand. And they would all walk in step. They would all walk together, and so that there was nobody who was trying to pull others down and pull in a wrong direction. They knew which way to go, walk on the left or on the right, and whether to cross the road at where or where not to cross. And so these are the habits that got formed when they were very young.
Right.
It is like my child telling me that never throw a wrapper out of a moving car. Put it in your pocket, and when you see a trash can, throw it there. And so these are the things, values and things that must come into our system, including wise, inquisitiveness, innovation, disruptive thinking, knowledge and skills, and the ability to question, why am I doing a particular thing the way it is being done.
Right. Sir, thank you so much for your time. It was an absolute pleasure. I hope you had a good time in this conversation. If you would like to say some words, few words from your side would be great for us. This is the first podcast that I am doing, and it's been great. It's been great. I am falling short of words.
So Aryan, it is your birthday today.
Yes.
And your first podcast happens to be on your birthday. I don't think it could have been a more auspicious or a better day than starting your podcast. And I am delighted, and I would say fortunate to be the first person you're doing podcast with.
Pleasure, sir.
I just hope that whatever we spoke reaches people and it is of some value. These are personal thoughts. They are not reflecting views of a system or an organization or particularly the nation. And I think that every human being must have freedom to express within the bounds, obviously, of the society, in the culture and the laid down norms and rules and regulation. And so it is very important that you continue on this journey of exploration. And I wish you success in all your endeavors, and I hope we do meet again and talk on probably some more technical things and utilization of air power.
Absolutely, sir. I'm thankful to you for your presence. Thank you so much for giving me your time. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's been great. So thank you so much. I would like
Thanks
to
a lot, Aryan, and all the best.
thank you so much, sir.